The U.S. stock market continuing this volatile week. The S&P 500 has basically had $4 trillion with a T, $4 trillion in value wiped out since the peak in the last month. It's down about 9 to 10% in that month period, with a lot of problems over the past few days. We are witnessing a brewing financial revolt over President Trump's tariffs, some of his economic leadership, and recently his frankly odd refusal to even try to encourage the markets. Donald Trump basically passed on the opportunity to quiet concerns over a possible, quote, recession to start the week. Those markets now down, as you see, 8% or so in the last month, wiping out all initial gains from the period that began with Trump's inauguration in January. That was when Wall Street, which typically leans to the right, was bullish on a new president, even as he literally walked the floor of the trading floor there. It was a new president who vowed lower taxes and less regulation and smaller government, while also making deals with the billionaires and the tech gurus who are almost sort of worshipped on Wall Street. The point is, remember, not so long ago that it was a very warm start for the president. Doing almost nothing might have continued those warm feelings. But that's all now soured in response to President Trump's frankly unusual, chaotic first 7 weeks in office. The markets today you're looking at are down about another point or so, which is translated to about $350 billion lost in the S&P alone, on top of what I showed you, the broader slide over the tariff chaos and a general concern over the new president and the United States policies and where we're headed. So a president who began tight with Wall Street has now committed what really looks like a massive fumble. It's the kind of error that bankers see as avoidable, as Donald Trump's fault. Not what also can happen with the markets and the economy, which is sometimes a macroeconomic surprise or a pandemic. This is different. I'll show you what one financial expert calls it. The slumps now are very much a, quote, man-made situation. Now, I have more on the details of the Wall Street reaction, and I'm going to show you them because Trump is basically revealing a kind of shaky hand. He had vowed more tariffs on Canada, which was breaking with pleas and even sirens he was hearing from investors, from CEOs, from many Republicans, some of this in public, some of it reportedly in private, as well as what economists have said about the whole trade war. And that's just over the past 24 hours or so. But Trump had resisted that going into today, promising more tariffs. Then late today, the president reversed course and pulled back on what were the new planned tariffs after Canada eased off some of its planned retaliation. Many are seeing what is now the market Trump slump as the risk of a looming Trump session. Now, Trump made some of his first remarks since the weekend. He has been laying low more so than usual. And the results here are clear and stark. The risk of a recession, according to the people who live and basically their careers live and die by these calls, who live and breathe Wall Street data, well, they say the recession risk is higher because of extreme U.S. policies. That's how J.P. Morgan Chase economists put it. That's a reference to Trump's extreme policies. And they say this recession risk has grown now, just over the past few weeks, partly because of Trump, and it is as high as 40%. You don't need to be a math whiz to know 40% is edging close to something that is as likely to happen as not, and higher than when Trump took over. Others peg this as a problem that is real but lower risk, say 20% up from 15%, according to the powerhouse bank Goldman Sachs. Others banking in this region and all these issues say, look, the quote I mentioned earlier, it's very much a man-made situation. That's from the top investment officer at Key Private Bank. Now, at this point, you could ask, is there going to be a Trump recession? Now, if I just say those words, they could sound like the framing of a Democratic attack ad eyeing the next election. It could sound like something a Trump critic would say. So I'm saying it to you first as a question. People who are cynical, and we know plenty of folks on the right who are very cynical about what they see as the mainstream press, journalists, might say, oh, there they go, asking about a Trump recession so early on, yada, yada, yada. Well, what I asked you was a quote, and I'll show you the source. Will there be a Trump recession is the question on Wall Street, and it is posed by Fox News' sister outlet, Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal. If you don't like the question, shoot the messenger. But if the messenger is your best friend, maybe you have to ask why they're so worried that you're tanking the economy. Now, we've reported since the market jitters began, this is a reality check. It is a product of economic indicators, of the collective hive mind of investors and Wall Street, and also what people are feeling in the country. It can't easily be spun by twisting an algorithm on X or Facebook, even if the MAGA billionaires tried. Now, here's the headlines. New York Times. Stocks plunge as recession talk gets louder. Wall Street fears Trump will wreck the soft landing from the news section of Wall Street Journal. Wall Street stocks tumble as investors fret over U.S. economic slowdown from the International Financial Times. Or Bloomberg, classic financial outlet, not political in any way, quote, markets rocked as Wall Street frets over Trump's economic impact. These are all data-driven facts and evidence. And everybody knows that Donald Trump has worked throughout his whole career, and certainly his time in television and PR and branding. He has worked outside the margins of reality. When he lost his biggest loss of his life, the presidential election, he launched a whole effort that turned into a movement, that turned into a violent insurrection based on what? On a big lie. And he had millions of people actually being confused or even believing the lie, even though he, of course, lost the 2020 election. Those efforts are much harder against an economic reality check like this. And so Trump is actually changing his tune, dealing with his playbook where he tries to sell the dream, spin the results, never acknowledge a loss, as I mentioned. But this is also getting to Trump. I mentioned how he's been staying out of the cameras more than usual. And when he has spoke on this, gone are the rosy proclamations and vows about how great things are going to be, and they've been replaced by a different Trump, a kind of grim football coach Trump. Hey, we're going to ride this out. We'll show you the comparison.
What I have to do is build a strong country. You can't really watch the stock market. Much higher stock markets. I think the stock market's going to be great. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. We will bring prices down.
Are you expecting a recession this year?
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition. We're going to win like never before in many ways. The economy is going to be strong.
The economy is not strong. The economy is weak, weakened by trillions of losses, depending on how back far you count. The Trump vows of winning and winning and winning are gone, partly because as a PR type, he understands that while you can lie to people about a lot of things, or as Bob Marley said, you can fool some of the people some of the time. You can't fool all the people all the time, and definitely not when they're watching the money drain out of their accounts and they're watching their employers say, if we get a Trump recession, quoting the Wall Street Journal, owned by Rupert Murdoch, a lot of other things are going to get worse. This Trump slump is also hitting those very billionaires that I mentioned Trump promised would benefit so handily from his leadership. The tech moguls from the inauguration, they were all smiles, most of them, and they certainly thought they had figured out a way to make more money, which, remember, is what they're best at. These are the people who accumulate wealth. That's why they're the wealthiest. This was partly, if not largely, a wealth play. How's that working out for Elon Musk? He's down $148 billion with Tesla absolutely tanking. Jeff Bezos, who's eaten so many of his own words and upended how he runs the Washington Post and changed his whole identity as a strong disruptor into someone who's more of a MAGA deal maker. Well, right now, this whole thing has cost him $29 billion. Zuckerberg, $5 billion down. Trump can see how his policies are linked to their losses. And he just jumped into an unusual photo op with Elon Musk at the White House, literally touting a Cybertruck you see there and Tesla vehicles. This is the closest thing you can get to a taxpayer-funded ad, right? Your time and money here is being directed towards helping Trump's billionaire friend. They talked about avoiding conflicts. You're looking at a very blatant conflict of interest as Tesla tanks. Trump was asked about the economy there.
And what's your message to Americans right now, sir, who are worried about the stock market? What's your message to them as they watch it?
That's pretty much saying the Cybertruck is worth. Have you been?
Let's go see the Cybertruck.
Sometimes the owns write themselves. That is what it looks like when you are playing yourself. You have no answer on how you're doing on the economy, or all the people I just showed you from the Wall Street Journal, the Goldman Sachs, saying the tariff confusion and the shaky leadership is driving a market slump. So when you're asked about it at a public appearance you volunteered for, what about everybody else, Mr. President? What about everybody else's situation, jobs, retirement accounts? You can't even summon the words. You just say, let's go look at my buddy's Cybertruck. I'm really worried about his billions, which is why a lot of this has become a bit of a dour, Baroque Trump era punchline.
In the first Trump term, it took a disease to destroy the economy. This time, he is the disease.
It's not great when the summary of your first 2 months in office is stocks down, measles up. You know, that's bad. That's not good.
How's it going? Are you better off than you were 7 weeks ago? How do we get through the rest of this together with facts rather than spin and Cybertrucks?